And good morning and welcome to Nature Watch. Nature Watch is sponsored by Waddell's Nursery, Floral, Garden, and Bird Center at the corner of 12th Street and Millam Road. And now, your host of Nature Watch, Gary Miller. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are ya?
Well, good, glad I made it here.
Yeah, you were just a smidgen.
I just slid in.
Yeah. Well, you missed me playing this because you didn't have your headphones on.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Good old
That's
Jim
from
Mora.
a few years ago, I think.
Oh, yeah. Good old Jim Mora. It never gets old. I'm just saying. 269-382-4280. If you want to join us this morning on Nature Watch, you can text in questions or comments to 80373. I want to open up, first of all, the horrible wildfires out in
oh my goodness.
Southern California. It's a history-making event in all of the wrong reasons.
Yes.
And you know, my heart goes out to them.
That is very detrimental when you've got really dry conditions, and they typically are the dry side anyway.
Yeah.
And then when you have extra dry and you throw winds in there, and they've had some extreme winds, and you get a wildfire, it's a disaster waiting to happen, and it obviously is happening right now.
This is more of a summertime event, though, isn't it? As far as out west
remember
goes,
we're talking about the drought.
Dry,
we're talking about the drought.
Yeah.
So it is actually dry in most of the U.S. yet, and they're abnormally dry out in California also. And if you remember, typically when we get into the spring rains and that, they tend to because they've gone from dry to wet, and they tend to get all those landslides and that from too much rain.
Yep.
So they go from one extreme to the other, but yeah, they are really dry out there. And when you have all those hills and that, and you've got a lot of vegetation, it is really difficult to fight those fires. And when you get the 60, 70 mile an hour winds on top of it, I'm hoping we have no more fatalities, but we're lucky we haven't had any more.
Right.
To be honest, with all the firefighters out there. They're putting their lives on the line every time they're out there. So.
Exactly. And it is dry here as well, and the snow that's on the ground right now is not going to help us. We're supposed to get 3 to 6 inches coming up
so I
Sunday, Monday. Maybe we can work on that, but we're going to need a lot more than that.
So I looked at the drought monitor yesterday, and it's gotten just a touch better, but not much at all. Because they take into account what our normal precipitation is, our average precipitation, and we still have not been getting a lot, and so we're still on that drought stage, extremely dry right now in most of Michigan. And so all this moisture that we're getting, so when you're not too happy about shoveling it, think about it helping the soil out and all those plants next growing season.
Yes, there you go. Okay, tell you what, trivia time, 269-382-4280. I have a $20 gift card to Waddell's Nursery, Floral, Garden, and Bird Center at the Roundabout, Millam and 12th. And your trivia question this morning, and please, if you've won in the last 30 days, let's let somebody else win. We've been doing well with that lately.
Yes.
But,
so actually a week ago, after the show, I happened to run across a news article, and it was actually mentioning the sighting in Michigan of a bird that is very common to Michigan with an extremely rare color. So my question today is a two-parter. One, what is the bird? Jim just rolled his eyes at me again. And two, what is the unusual color that it is? Very, very common bird we see this time of year. So I'm going to throw lots of hints out there.
I know the answer. I'll keep my big fat mouth shut.
I'm sure that somebody else ran across this. It is an extremely, extremely rare color for this bird, but it's a bird that we commonly see this time of year.
I know what you're talking about, too.
So the question is, what is that bird, and what is the color that it is?
269-382-4280. Good morning. Who is this on WKZO?
Good morning, guys. This is Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Is this
Hi
Mary?
there.
Is this Mary from Lawton?
It is.
We have not talked to you in a while.
I know. I've been holding back, guys.
All right. Tell you what. Why don't you take a stab at this? I have a feeling because
You didn't even have to take a stab.
Oh, okay, good. Tell me.
I knew this without even looking it up.
Tell me.
It's a cardinal, and it's yellow.
Oh, correct.
Yep.
Bing, bing, bing.
I knew
Jim,
that.
two-parter was going to be
Beautiful.
difficult.
Well, you see, Gary, when he says two-parter, I'm like, great, I'm going to be on this phone forever. Except he threw up a softball, apparently.
Yeah. So, Mary, what are you seeing at your feeders right now?
I'm seeing, just this morning, a red cardinal, blue jays, the red-headed woodpeckers on the suet feeder, and a couple pigeons, or doves.
Yeah,
doves.
morning doves. The morning doves are. I've noticed the morning doves are starting to feed around my feeders too.
Yes, and then could it be the tufted titmouse with the gray and white and black? Yep. What about bluebirds? I'm not seeing. I haven't seen any bluebirds at all this winter.
They not all of them winter here. A lot of them migrate farther south, but there are some that stick around for the winter time. Usually for bluebirds, you want to try to have maybe some berry fruit out there for them. They will eat that. Also mealworms. They love mealworms. Ooh. So if you have mealworms out, the bluebirds will probably attract if the few that are sticking around for the winter. There's always a few that hang around.
Well, that yellow cardinal, oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I happened to see that, and I got home after the show last week, and I saw that, and I'm like, oh boy, there was a great trivia question. I thought, well, I'll save it for this week then. But yeah, just unusual color. It's so unusual that it's like 1 in 10 million birds.
Is it accepted by the other ones?
It is. Actually, one of the photos that they posted that the people had taken there were several photos of the cardinals, and they're up near Bath Township, which is up near Lansing area, and one of the photos they have is the yellow cardinal is on the ground, and there is a red cardinal about 2 feet away and a junco in between them. So they're very well accepted. It's unusual looking at them because there's no red on the bird at all. Where you typically see red on cardinals, it is yellow. And if you look, if you actually search for yellow cardinal, in South America there is a very rare cardinal, not related to the northern cardinals that we see here, that is yellow. And it looks almost identical to it. But this is not that bird because that is a tropical bird.
I was wondering.
That is not that bird. Okay. Occasionally we see the yellow cardinals. Like I said, they're very rare. They said extremely rare is actually the way they described it. And they said it's about a 1 in 10 million chance of a bird cardinal being yellow like this. Occasionally we get those leucistic birds that have lost pigment, and they're mostly white-feathered or all white-feathered. They're not albinos. I've seen some photos of occasionally people have seen them that they're mostly white-feathered and they have a few clumps of red feather in there, so they look like this red and white tropical bird, and it's just a northern cardinal that has lost some of that pigment. The yellow cardinal, this yellow northern cardinal, is actually caused by a little gene skip that they have in their DNA, and they're not sure if it's the same gene all the time that they're missing. But they've determined that at least that's part of the cause or most of the cause, and they're hoping that the yellow cardinal will molt some feathers here and there, and they'll be able to actually collect those, and they can actually study those feathers and see if it's actually the specific gene or group of genes that affect that.
You know, I haven't seen any little yellow finches this year yet.
I have not seen a lot of finches out at my feeders either. I've seen a few. I think the goldfinch population is down right now. And they may still be feeding out in those plants that they typically feed on, thistle, but they also eat a lot of goldenrod seed. And we haven't had deep snows and really heavy snows to knock all those taller plants down. So they're still probably foraging out there in the wild to some extent.
I tell you, your bird seed is wonderful. My brother-in-law had a generic seed he had out there, and he wasn't getting any birds. I gave him a bag of that elite.
Oh, yeah, fantastic mix.
He goes, oh, my gosh, they just love it. They just start coming around, and it makes a difference.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, Mary, you have a $20 gift card coming from Waddell's. Can you hold on the line for a moment? And
I sure will.
I'll get some information from you during the break, and we will be back with more Nature Watch. Looks like we're talking birds today here.
And some weather coming up.
And some weather. Yeah, we always talk weather. Here on WKZO.
Winter is the perfect time to reflect on past landscape winners and less than winners. It's also the perfect time to plan for the 2025 gardening season. Waddell's Garden Center has an amazing lineup of informational classes during their Green Thumb Club series starting next Saturday, January 18th, and going through March 1st, with classes every Saturday at 10 a.m. and 11:15. 12 total classes will be offered and are just $5 each. If you come to 6 or more, you'll earn your Waddell's Green Thumb Club certificate and be rewarded with a $25 Waddell's gift card. The first class next Saturday at 10 will be a presentation of the new perennials and roses for 2025. The 11:15 class will focus on natives in the garden, where you can learn about increasing biodiversity without sacrificing beauty in your gardens. For more information, including a complete class list, and to sign up, visit Waddells.com. The Green Thumb Club, presented by Waddell's Nursery Florist and Garden Center.
WKZO.
I like the local news.
More local news on the radio than any other station in town. And online, too, at WKZO.com.
8:44, 26, light snow outside, some traffic issues to the north, so if you're heading towards Grand Rapids, just be aware of that. Nature Watch, though, continues right here with Gary Miller.
Yeah, and actually, if you're driving around the Kalamazoo, southwestern area here, Michigan, those back roads are still snow-covered and slippery. Even 131 was, for the most part, fairly clear, but there's a little wet slush on there.
Yeah.
And that wet slush is slippery. So take your time and drive safely. So that snow coming down yesterday, it seemed like it just kept coming down, and luckily it wasn't any big accumulations at any one time, but it kept adding up.
Yeah.
I was looking out the window in the waiting room. My wife had knee replacement surgery yesterday, and so I was watching the snow coming down, and there was quite a large flock of robins out feeding in a couple of ornamental crabapple trees, and they were just noisy, and they all get on a couple of trees and be eating fruit, and then apparently there might have been a hawk or somebody around because they kept flying away, and then about 5 minutes later they'd be back in the trees again. So didn't see the hawk, but it was snowing. I didn't want to wander out and try to look for the hawk. So those birds are feeding.
So how's the wife?
Good. She's actually doing well.
Okay.
Not quite 24 hours yet. But,
right. And rehab's going to be quite a while. So
she'll be.
What it is.
So she's not shoveling any snow this winter.
She shouldn't shovel it anyway, sir.
With me with a couple of bad knees, and that has always been. So
you and I have that age issue too.
And that cold, damp weather, sometimes the arthritis kicks in too. So talking about birds, one of the other things I ran across, actually just happened to pop up on my Facebook page, a little update and heads up from a wildlife refuge in Ontario. And this refuge is towards the eastern end of Lake Erie and the north shore there on Ontario side. And they had a little heads up notice that they put out on Wednesday, actually, and said, we are getting an influx of calls for waterfowl and birds of prey with highly pathogenic avian influenza, the HPAI, which is the one we keep seeing all over. So they said... if you see sick birds, they actually contact the Canadian authorities there. But Michigan DNR site has a contact form that you can put on if you see some sick birds. So the AI viruses, they've been found in many of the bird species, most often found in migratory waterfowl, ducks, geese, and swans. Birds of prey tend to have it too sometimes, but any of them can have it. One thing that they had on there is one thing we can watch is actually you see a lot of sick birds. You see birds from sudden death. See abnormal behavior from the birds. There's a few other symptoms that you can see there. If you see multiple birds that die, they actually ask that you contact the DNR, and they can try to check that out. So it's something to watch for. We've been seeing updates on that. We've had commercial domestic chicken flocks and poultry flocks that have tested positive. It can pass on to some of the dairy herds, so And I did mention last week about those birds getting destroyed. Actually, if you cook it at the right temperature, it is safe to eat. So I misspoke last week.
Okay.
I was actually looking at the CDC and USDA guidelines on that yesterday, and so that it's something to take into account. Biggest thing they say is wash your hands after you've been around birds. Placing feed in the feeders. Wash your hands. Wash those feeders periodically. We've got a fantastic cleaning solution at Waddell's. You can use a mild bleach solution. I'm always cautious about bleach. I'm a Murphy's Law kind of guy, and if I have bleach in me, I'm going to get splashed at some point. I tend to attract dirt like that. So, not that bleach is dirt, but
my glasses, I can clean them, and then 5 minutes later, I'm nowhere near anyone. There's a smudge. I'm like, how?
Yeah, that's why I don't get contacts. I have glasses just because of that.
Me either.
So
and I can't put contacts in anyway. My eyes freak out.
So take watch for those birds, keep those feeders clean, and we'll try to get that. The birds everywhere in North America have tested positive for it, so it's just not a high probability that you're going to domestic animals, including cats and dogs, could get it, but there is that chance. So we play it safe. Try to reduce the effect of spreading in that. Eventually, it should sort of work its way out of the system.
Would it be beneficial to maybe put your bird feeder out of service for a week or two?
They're actually not recommending that right now. I actually looked to see what they were recommending. They said not doing anything except cleaning.
Okay.
And the thing is if you put your bird feeder out of service, unless everybody does it in an area, they're going to go to another feeder, and so you really haven't done anything as far as trying to reduce the amount of contact that they have.
Now, how frequently should you clean it?
So actually, they're actually recommending cleaning it at least monthly and sometimes weekly now with all the activity there because it's fecal matter and that. So weekly, actually, they're recommending doing a cleaning on those feeders. So you got the feeder out of service for a little bit. So what you do is you got to let the feeder dry after you wash it off. So
right.
Some neat things coming up this next week. We haven't been able to see any northern lights or anything. Been too many clouds. We had some neat astronomical events. Had the Quadrantid meteor shower that was just before last weekend.
Yeah.
Too cloudy, you can't see anything.
Yeah, Thursday completely freaked me out with that big bright orb shining down all day long. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's out there for very long either. And we're probably going to see a lot more clouds too. I saw some comments on Michigan Storm Chasers Facebook page that they were saying because of the warm temperatures we've had, the lake is more open. Actually, about 3 or 4 or 5 days ago or so, the lake coverage, ice coverage in the Great Lakes was about 2.67%.
That's not a lot.
Typically, it's about 15 or more % this time of year. I looked yesterday, because of the colder temperatures we've had, it's up near 7% already. So
okay.
But we're still a lot of open water, a lot more, and that open water leads to lake effect, and lake effect means more clouds.
I recall years ago when we had that month-long cold snap, and Lake Michigan pretty much nearly froze over, not completely because it doesn't completely freeze over, but most of it did, and that stretch of February was lots of sun.
Yes,
because
less clouds, you don't get the snow.
But then we were 20 below at night, so take one for the other, right?
Yes, yeah. So it looks like this next week, actually several weeks, so we're getting a little bit of warm up. It's actually in the 20s. A little wind chill this morning, but I think we hit above freezing on it was like Monday or Tuesday, at least on the forecast. And
this is where I get my weather app out and start to argue.
But then it's supposed to get cold again.
Yeah. How cold? Try teens.
Yeah, so we're actually the teens for highs.
Yep.
About a week or so.
Yep, exactly.
And we got that chance of another winter storm coming, and luckily we're not getting these snowstorm and ice that they're getting down south. I saw some posts from a friend that we have near the Atlanta area, and she said they had an inch or two of snow. Nobody knows how to drive on it. They don't have the equipment to remove it. But the problem was the ice underneath it. And looking at the winter storm warning from the National Weather Service for that area, they were talking up to 0.4 of an inch of ice, almost half an inch of ice.
That's a lot even for here.
That's a lot for anywhere.
Yeah.
And that, then having snow on top of it, and that extra weight of ice breaks a lot of trees down. You get power lines down. Plus, you can't drive on it.
Yeah.
So they've had almost more severe winter weather than we've had this year so far.
Old National Weather Service friend who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, George Wetzel. He used to work in the Grand Rapids office and then transferred to Peachtree, Georgia. His widow is still down in the Atlanta area, and she said that she's been powerless for about a day and a half. So.
And when you get down farther south like that, those structures aren't built for winter temperatures and get cold pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're up here, you get the heavy winter coat out. Down there, they're bundled up like you're up at the North Pole or so. Some neat events coming up though this next few weeks or so. Next Saturday, the Kalamazoo Astronomical Society has another online viewing session from 9 to 11 p.m. It's via Zoom, and they actually link in with their telescope down in the nice, clear southeastern Arizona skies. They're typically very clear. And the last one they did in December went quite well. I haven't gone in to look at the recording. I had all intentions of linking in with that, and I ended up falling asleep in the chair.
Was it like the Stephen Colbert Show, live on tape?
Yeah.
There you go.
But I heard some comments. It actually worked really good. They had perfectly clear skies when they were there. So neat chance to see some stars because you can't see many here with all the clouds. No. The Kalamazoo Area Wild Ones is next Thursday, has their Pints and Native Plants. Check out their Facebook page or website to get info on that. Next week, Wednesday, so a week and a half from now, the Kalamazoo Area Wild Ones has their January meeting, and they're actually going to have Ashley Cole-Wick, who is from the Michigan Natural Features Inventory, in talking about a couple of Michigan's rarest butterflies. And that's 6:30 to 8 p.m., also on Zoom. And so if you go to Kalamazoo Area Wild Ones, you can get the link for that. She's actually going to be talking about two of the rarest butterflies that call southern Michigan home, the Carner Blue and the Mitchell's Satyr. And it'd be very interesting to see. Starting here next week, actually the fun activities at Waddell's, we've got the Winter Green Thumb Club. So every Saturday, one or two little seminars. It's a fun activity to do, and all sorts of topics. There's some neat nature-related topics. In fact, next Saturday there's one talking about using native plants in your garden. And so they got some talking about birds and nesting boxes and some other activities. It actually doesn't cost you much except some time. $5 a class.
Oh, that's nominal.
If you do 6 of the classes or more, you get a $25 Waddell's gift card. So it costs you $5 in time.
There you go.
You can't beat that.
There you go.
So check that out. Go to Waddells.com and go to the events and look at the Green Thumb Club activities coming up on that. Coming up this next week, on the 19th, is World Snow Day. How appropriate, huh?
Yeah, we don't need a celebration. Okay, I take that back because there are people that love winter. I'm just not one of them.
Yeah, so actually a week from tomorrow, actually, World Snow Day. And it's always observed that third Sunday in January. Actually, it was interesting, the little tidbits of information they had. 40 states in the U.S. have ski resorts. There are 10 that do not. And a couple of them are surprises. Delaware, pretty small, so that's sort of the rest of them are more southern states than that.
Right.
But the other interesting thing is, guess which state has the second most number of ski resorts?
Second most?
We're in the state of Michigan. State of Michigan has the second most number of resorts. Actually, ahead of California and Colorado and Utah. New York has even more. But a lot of our resorts are smaller, sometimes smaller resorts, and they don't have the elevation change that they get at some of the Rockies and that.
Right.
So the other thing I noticed, talking about some of these astronomical events, and I'd seen the post different times on Facebook and that. I keep seeing these posts coming up January 25th that there's a planetary alignment. And actually there are 6 planets you'll be able to see. You can see them all the month of January. 2 of them, you need to have some binoculars and or telescope to see them, Uranus and Neptune. they're in the night sky. They're up there. But we also have Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars, and you can see those just with the naked eye, and they're all in a straight line. And that's not unusual because they're always that way.
Oh, okay.
So check out, if you go like earthsky.com, you can get all sorts of info how to look for those and where to look for those. And if we get some clear skies, go out, take a look at the night sky.
There you go.
Big if.
If you have any questions for Gary during the week, and it might trigger even a trivia question for the following show, where do you go?
Yeah, so email me at naturewatch@wadells.com.
There you go.
That's the best way to get something. If you see something unusual at your bird feeder or some news event that you see that relates to nature,
and
give me an email, and we might see that as a trivia question.
And don't look for Gary at the store because he's on his yearly sabbatical, okay?
Yes. Well, I'm doing a little nurse duty, too. So.
Yes. You're a good man. Gary, thank you. And thank you for listening to this edition of Nature Watch. Tune in each Saturday morning at 8:30 for Nature Watch, brought to you by Waddell's Nursery, Floral Garden, and Bird Center at the corner of 12th Street and Millam Road. Up next is CBS and local news, and then American Outdoors Radio right here on 590 and 106.9 FM, WKZO.